Today I'm going to be doing a deep dive on the Roland S-1 sequencer. It's a lot more powerful than most give it credit for and can do some things that you might not expect. Let's get right into it, starting from simple to advanced. The Roland S-1 has a pattern length between 1 and 64 steps. To modify this, you hit Shift plus last, and then turn the value encoder. You can set this value anywhere between 1 and 64. Let's set it back to 16, which is the default. You can also adjust the pattern scale. This means you can make a step longer, faster. You can put it into triplets, which means you're getting 3 beats in the time of 2. And all of this gives you a lot more control over how you might program in a pattern. Now, let's talk about different note entry forms. This is what I use somewhat most commonly, especially when I'm working with more melodic elements. This is step mode. Step mode, you press on one of these 16 steps, and a note will be placed there. If you hold it down and turn the value encoder, it will change which note is being played there. You also have record mode. Record mode is when you have this button on, the record button, and then you can scroll through all of your steps and see which one is on which note. In this mode, you can actually play more than just melodic elements. You can include full chords up to 4 notes. You also, of course, have live entering mode. To do live entering, you have record on while it is playing. Full is shown when you've maxed out one of the steps amount of voices, which is 4. So let's talk about some other things. We also have, let's just save that really quick because I kind of like how it sounds. We're going to save that sequence. Now, we also have 2 functions. We have clear note and clear motion. We'll get into clearing motion a little later, but it works the exact same as clear note. If I want to clear this pattern, you know what I did? I actually reloaded the original sequence, which was nothing. So let's just put in a random sequence. And now if I hit clear note, it will delete that out very easily. So if you need to clear out your sequence really quick, that is the easiest way. The other functions are the copy function. So if I go into step mode and let's say I enter that in, I might want to copy that somewhere else in the pattern. So here we are, step 9. Let's actually say it's a little more complicated and it's a major 7th. I'm sorry, a minor 7th. We will now hit step and then menu while we're in that, and you see a new function menu has popped up. We have copy, paste, insert, and duplicate. Duplicate is for the entire pattern. Duplicate will duplicate the entire pattern. So if you have 16 steps, you would then have 32. But copy, paste, and insert are just per step. So let's copy this. Then let's go back and let's say we want that on step 4. We're going to do the exact same thing. Step, menu, and then I'm going to hit paste. And now on step 4, we have that exact same chord. All right, and insert works the exact same way. You just select insert instead, and that will insert a note in between 2. So let's get a little more complicated here. Let's clear those back out. Let's enter some more steps. Let's just do something really simple, every other note. So as I said, you hold this down and you can change which note is being played, right? But you also have other functions. As you can see, D motion starts blinking, and when you press this, it now opens up a new menu of other things that you can modify. We have the velocity. We also have the gate, which is how long that it will, how much of that step it will take up. We also have the probability, which is, of course, the probability of how many times, what is the chance that it will actually activate. As you can see, it didn't activate that time. We also have the substeps, and this is something I just don't see a lot of people using. I use it all the time when I'm just jamming out. Substeps basically allow you to divide the step into multiple parts, and suddenly you now have this. Let's turn off the probability just so we can get a full. We have this one step being repeated multiple times. You hear how it's being almost like a ratchet effect. Let's turn up the velocity on that a little bit so it's a little louder. In the substep, we have a lot of different options. You can place it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and then you can also have it so there's blanks in between, so a rest. And that gives you a lot of variability on like how the sound will actually come off and how it will play. Because if you, let's say, set these all to different ones, I'm just going to kind of randomly go about. And unfortunately, there's no easy way to do like a mass. You have to keep clicking through, but that's just one of the limitations of the S1's kind of interaction. And as you can see, that kind of does a lot of different variation to the normal kind of step sequencing. So moving on, we have these, I think it's 5 things that we can edit here in the step mode. And that is basically at the whole step level, but we can also interact with individual notes. So I think we have a chord. I deleted the chord, so let's put in this chord right here. On this chord, we still have access to gate and velocity for each one of these notes individually. So if, let's say, I want this lowest note to be very low velocity, and let's put it really high gate. And then this highest note I want to be very high velocity, but lower gate. And let's just see what that sounds like. Let's actually turn off some of these other just so we can hear it more clearly. Now it's a bit hard to tell, but basically now that this is happening, we have those individual notes being affected in slightly different ways. Going on, we can also do some parameter locks. If you go into step mode, let's say I'm just going to place a bunch of notes again. Let's say I want this one. Sorry, I messed it up. There we go. As you can see, you can parameter lock specific steps. And so let's do some other ones. Let's say I want to parameter lock some delay in there. And as you can see, you kind of need to turn it off and on using another node. So this note, it is going up. This note, it is getting turned off. Let's do some release. And you have 8 parameter lanes, so 8 different times that you can sort of modify what these are going to sound like. Or 8 different parameters of these ones that you can have going at the same time. Alright, so let's move on a little bit further. Some more advanced ways that you can then interact with the sequencer, and this isn't necessarily a sequencer, but if you switch envelope trigger over to the LFO, you can then re-trigger this envelope with the LFO, and that can create some really interesting interactions, especially if you turn, let's say, the LFO into, let's turn on an LFO sync, and then I'm going to turn it so it is 30-second triplets, or let's do something, how about, yeah, there we go, 30-second triplets, and now on that 30-second triplets LFO running, it is now activating this envelope more times. And so if we turn that down, you can hear what it sounds like without the envelope trigger, or without the LFO triggering it, and then with the LFO triggering it. And so what I do a lot of the times is I will mix sort of a dotted LFO trig with a normal undotted, untripleted pattern scale, and that will kind of create very interesting variation to keep things interesting, especially when I'm jamming and I'm kind of just creating and doing some sound design. The other thing you can do is you can hit Shift and Pattern, which opens up the step loop, and that lets you press a step and it will loop it until you let go. You can actually press multiple steps in any order that you want, or any sort of combination you want. You can press all these that have no sound at all. And what I use this a lot for is if I have a bunch of chords programmed in and I want to kind of add variation to the chord progression. So that's just another way that you can kind of interact with the sequencer and make it more powerful than just the base 1 to 64 steps. Those are most of my tricks that I use. If you have anything that I'm missing here, please let me know. These are kind of just what I use the most, and I think pretty comprehensive in terms of how you can interact with the sequencer. Obviously, there's things like key transpose, but I consider that more of a sound design sort of thing rather than a sequencer. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and maybe even learned something. Thanks. Bye.